Hey, this is Mr. Ward, and I'm going to do a short video here on how to Desmos. So Desmos is an online graphing calculator that's quite powerful and very useful, and you'll be using it for many things, particularly in algebra. So it's a good idea to get used to it now. We'll probably use it some more this year in pre-algebra as well. So here's where I've got it. Of course, it's something I go to all the time, but I'll go ahead and type it in the URL space. So it is desmos.com. And if you just do that, it'll bring you to the main Desmos page, and then you can open up Calculator. There's a few other things you can go to. If I've given you a Desmos activity, you can go into the students.desmos thing. And you can go on further, and they've added a 6th grade through 8th grade math curriculum. There's really amazing art contests that people have done, and so forth. So you can check that out. There's now a geometry tool as well. So you click on the math tools. There's a scientific calculator, matrix calculator. There's the geometry tool, test practice, and so forth. But we're going to focus on the graphing calculator, which you can get to here, or you can get to right here. So I'm going to open up the graphing calculator. Now, if you had typed in desmos.com/calculator, you'd get here directly. Okay, there's a couple things to notice. First, I'm going to log out so that you can see how to log in. So I'm going to sign in, I'm going to log in, and what you want to do is you want to log in with Google. Let me actually do that again. Log in, choose log in with Google, and then I'll choose one of my many email addresses. There's my McAuliffe one. And it may ask you to allow something at some point, and that's fine. Okay. Now I'm going to give you a little tour of this structure. So over here, of course, it gives you an X, Y axis and a grid. You can zoom out on it. You can zoom in. If you zoomed way out, because a lot of people like to go crazy with this, and you're like, I'm way out there now. I'm 5 times 10 to the 7th power. You're like, I don't want to zoom in over and over. It's just hit the house. That brings you back to kind of the default or home settings right there. Now, you'll see up here it says untitled graph. If you were needing to create a graph and save it for some reason, just click on that, give it a name. This is the graph I am using for how to Desmos. Okay, and I just gave it a name. It has to give it a title other than the classic title, untitled document or untitled graph. Now, you see the save button is no longer green, but watch what happens as soon as I type anything. So I'm going to type something. I'm going to make an XY point. I'm going to place an XY coordinate at 4, 3, at the point 4, 3. So I'm going to X is 4, Y will be 3. So I start by making a parentheses, and notice as soon as I type anything in this is called a cell, the save button comes on. So I'll say 4, 3. So I have my point. Now, if I want that to be saved, I get out of this and I come back in. If I haven't hit the save button, all my work is gone. Now, that's not a lot of work there, but sometimes you'll have created a lot of stuff and you'll be very sad if you didn't hit save. So I'm going to hit save now, but as soon as I do anything else, that green button's going to come back on. All right. So I'm going to label this so now I can actually see my point. If I wanted to, I could label it otherwise. I could say, this is where I am. Okay, I can give it a name. I could call it banana. Okay, or I can just leave it as is and leave the label right there. Okay, cool. Now here's the next thing we can do. See this little plus button? This little plus button allows me to decide what's going to be in a cell. Now the automatic thing is an expression, and that's what I just did. It's a very simple expression, just the parentheses with the X and Y coordinates and a comma between them. So that's the default setting right there, expression. But maybe I want to type something in my next cell. In that case, I'm going to use note. So if I were just to start to type in here, I would say, hi, my name is Mr. Ward. Notice it does this weird stuff here, um, changes the font. Well, what it's actually thinking is that every single letter here is a variable, that I've just created some crazy variable expression. It doesn't like it because I put spaces in it. So if I get rid of spaces, it'll do another funky thing. Now it says add sliders. And now it could I can select these things, and let's say I picked letter H. Now H currently equals 1, and I would have a slider. But that's not what I wanted here. So I'll come back to that. What I wanted was to be able to type, hi, my name is Mr. Ward, in a cell just as text. So I select note. So, hi, my name is Mr. Ward. Okay, so that's something I can do in here. All right, there are other things I can do. I can create a table. Okay, so I could create other points. Maybe I wanted to 1, 2. That's a point now. 2, 3. Oops. I do have to, and I'm using the arrow key to move. I could also use the tab key. 3, 4. And so I'm creating sort of a line of points here using this. Other things I could do is I could create a folder. So I create a folder and I say, this is where the stuff is. Okay, I give it some sort of title. And then I can click on the individual cells and I can actually drag them into the folder. Do you see that little line that appeared over on the left? When that line is there, in the folder, not in the folder. No, so that's in the folder. And this little drop down arrow, I undo it, I do it, undo it, I do it. So it's there, okay? And they seem to have added a little plus button to allow me to zoom the graph to fit what I have on the point. So that's kind of a new thing. All right, but I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to put that away for now. And I can also put in an image. So let's say I want to put in an image of this spiral of Herodotus right there. So I've put that image in, and it's got some information. It says its center is at 0, 0. It's got a certain width and a certain height. This angle is set in something called radians, which is another thing than degrees that I can explain later. There's opacity. I can change how see-through it is. If I want to, I can make it 0.4, and now it's a whole lot less opaque. 1. I guess I can change the number to numbers higher than 1. It doesn't seem to make a big, maybe it makes a difference. Maybe it's a little darker. Yeah, it does seem like it doesn't make it much darker. So 1 seems to be the top. But at any rate, so I'm going to leave that as 1. If I wanted to, I could change the center. Let's say we change the center to 4, 3. And I need to fix that because now the center is right there at 4, 3. And I can drag this around. Okay, so there's my center. I could change the width. I could change the height. You can also change where it is by moving this point here. I can change it like this. I could stretch it like that. Okay, I just controlled Z to go back to where I was. Stretch it like that. Okay, I don't like the distortion, so I'm going to control Z to go back to where I was. And if you ever make a mistake and you need to go back and undo some stuff, you can go back like this or go forward like this on here. Okay, those are some neat things you can do. That's just placing things on the graph. Now, I'll create now if I just hit enter, it automatically makes an expression. So I could say, I could create an equation. Y equals 3x. Okay, and I've just made a line where every point on it, the y value is 3 times whatever the x value is. Okay, so I made that thing. Maybe I want to put an exponent in it. Now to put an exponent, I'm going to use the shift button and the 6 key, which is going to put me in exponent land. There's a little pointy hat shaped thing. that we've used for showing exponents. It's the same thing. It's right above the 6. So Shift 6 moves me into exponent. And let's say I want to make this 3x squared, and I get a nice parabola. If I want to make it 3x cubed or 3x to the 4th or 3x to the 5th, I can do that. I even say 3x to the x, and I get this strange thing here. And I can even go to the x again, or to the x again, and to the x again. So you can do odd things with this. You make all kinds of interesting equations. If you want to make a fraction, I could say over, and I could say maybe x minus 1, and I get another strange equation. This is called a rational function, something you'll learn about next year. So those are things I can do. Now I'm going to show you how you can do some changes to the format, though. So this right here is my edit list button. So if I click this, it changes my screen a little bit so I can change things. I can change the color of this. I can make this point orange or green or purple or black or blue. I could also make it an open hole. Okay, and I could also make, so now I can go back in here one more time. I can make it an X if I wanted to. Open hole, solid dot, and so forth. I can change the label, and so forth. Now I can also, so if I say done, I'm done. I've changed it to blue. Now the lines, this curvy graph here that's going on here, I could change its color. Okay. Make it green, make it orange, make it purple. I could make it a dashed line, a dotted line if I want to. I can change how thick the line is. I can make it really thick, super thick, like a whole bunch of crazy dots. I don't really want to do that. Over here, I can change, I believe this is the opacity, so 0.2. Now it's really faint. 0.9, 0.1, just 1. I don't think it changes it above 1. So there, I've got that. And I'll say done. Okay, so those are things we can do with Desmos. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing we can do that maybe, and there's more advanced things. You can find a lot of videos on YouTube on how to, on this and so forth. But what I want to show you in particular, I'm going to get rid of these things. If I don't want this, I don't need that anymore. I'm going to leave that right there. Now I'm going to hit enter, and I go to a new cell. I could also just have clicked down below, and it would open up a new cell. And I'm going to say H. Okay. And didn't like that. So what I'm going to say is HV. And now since I've done that, it's giving me the opportunity to create sliders. So I'm going to do that. So now I've created sliders. And if I want to, I can change the value of what H is. Okay, I'm going to actually label H. So now it says it's 1, 1. If I change this to 2, now it's at 2, 1. I change this to 5. Now it's at 2, 5. And I can also play the slider. It goes up and down. Okay, and you can see the number is changing. You can turn it on and off. You can turn that one on and off. You can turn them both on at the same time and watch them fly around the page, fly around the graph like that. Okay. And yeah, it's kind of fun. You can do things like change the speeds. So I'm going to change the speed of one of them. That's the horizontal speed. I'm changing it. Okay. And now it's moving again. I can change the speed of the vertical one. I could also change it so it just goes in one direction, or like it keeps repeatedly going in one direction. Goes one direction indefinitely, plays indefinitely, and so forth. So let's see what it says. Plays once, plays indefinitely, repeat in one direction, loop forwards and backwards. Okay, and then you can change other things. Let me find the ways that we can change other things. Okay, so I see this 10 here. I could change, it's currently going from -10 to +10. I could change that from, say, -5 to +5. Okay, so -5 to +5. And now it's just going to go between -5 and +5. Now that's my vertical one. I labeled it V for vertical, and my horizontal is my H for horizontal. Okay, and X, this is in the X position, which is horizontal addresses, and that's the Y position, which is for vertical addresses. Okay, I'm going to turn that off for a moment. And now you can create points that are combinations of stuff. So I could say 4 plus H as a X value, and then 3 plus V. And since I've established those sliders of HV, I can now label that, and I can have that point move. So I'll move it horizontally like this. It's moving pretty slowly. Let me change its speed up a bit. Okay, so I'm moving it horizontally. And I can move it vertically as well by just moving that, and I can move it with both. Okay, and you'll notice it's moving along with this point HV, sort of tracking it. Okay, I could even go up here and put the center here as, so currently it's 4.7. I'll say minus H. We'll say divided by V. Oh, hang on. Divided by V. Okay, and now that's going to move around and do some crazy things. And so you can do a lot of interesting, fun things. Play around with this. I encourage you to play with the Desmos and make interesting things happen with this. All right, I'm now going to save this and show you how we can send this to people. So I save it. And if I wanted to send this to someone, I would click the share graph, and I could print my graph. I could export it to a file. I could embed this in a website if I wanted to, or I can just say copy, and then I have a copy of the link, and then I can email it to someone, or I can put it in as a link in a document. Okay, one last thing I want to show you, which is this graph settings. So graph settings, I can do things like make things more bold. That used to be called projector setting. I could reverse the contrast of the graph. There's something called Braille mode, which changes all the text into Braille if you wanted to do that. Okay, I'm taking it out of Braille mode, taking it out of reverse contrast. I could change this from a XY grid, a Cartesian coordinate plane, to what's called a polar coordinate system, which is not really something I'm planning to work on with you all this year, but it's pretty interesting stuff. Let's see. Put arrows on the ends of the grids if you want to. Put arrows on just one set of the grids like that, and that's kind of neat too. Okay. So there's further things you can do. You could change how the x-axis or the y-axis are. So you could change the x-axis. Currently it's going from -10 to 10. I could change it to -100 to 100 if I want. And what that is, you might notice it squished my image, and it spread this out from -100 to 100. It's still going on a y-axis from just -5 up to 5. You can see down here -6 point something to +6 point something. So if I wanted to match that, I might say -100 to 100, and everything's happening very tiny in the middle. Okay. If I want, currently it's using a measurement for angles. It's called radians. You could change it to degrees if you want to, if you were working with that sort of thing. You can label the X and Y axis if you want to. You can change the steps. So play with the Desmos is ultimately, I think my bottom line that you should play with this and see what you can do. All right, I'm going to save the graph and I'm going to stop and I'm going to make some other stuff about transformation.